times through colored glass. Time rolls on enough to let me move on past, but every little now and then it creeps on back to shade my smile.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever the case may be. For all of you listening out there across the crazy planet Earth, welcome to the first summer special of Vestiges After Dark. And as always, I am your host, Bishop Bryan Willett, coming to you live from the deep woods of Western Georgia on this July 23rd, 2024. Tonight, it's everyone's favorite episode. Open lines, open topics. You are the guest. You just tell us what you want us to talk about, and we will discuss it. You can call into the show. We'll have that number up on the screen shortly. Or you can leave your messages, comment stories in the chats around the various platforms where we're simulcasting, and we can take your questions from there as well. We always enjoy this one. I'm sure that you're just as excited about it as I am. Don't go away. Well, hello, everyone. Once again, this is your host, Bishop Bryan Willett, with my co-host, Jamie Wolfe. How you doing,
everybody.
Jamie? And I'm happy to be here with all of you on this summer special. It's always, I think, kind of disorienting. It's been quite a while since the season ended, and it's just nice to be back here tonight to sort of touch base with all of you and have a show. I don't like going too long without a Vestiges, but we need to have some breaks, and the summer is a good time to do that. So we're just happy to be with you all tonight. I want to give a big shout out to all of our moderators who are out there keeping all of you safe and keeping the chats safe from trolls. We certainly get our share of those, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Big thanks to Moosh, to Mystic, to Tracy and Paula and Brandon, all of you out there that help to keep this show an enjoyable experience for everyone. We're very grateful. One important thing to keep in mind here, we are no longer able to simulcast on Twitter. Twitter now requires a premium account in order to live stream from their platform, and I am not giving Elon Musk a penny of church dollars or my own. So there's no way in hell that they didn't restore my account. Now, if they had restored my account, not that I really want it back, but if they had restored the Exorcist Bishop account on Twitter, I would have probably paid the $7 or whatever he wants for premium and been able to simulcast the show from there. But we're not going to do it. But to compensate, TikTok, which I know a lot of you hate, but TikTok actually has a completely different demographic. It's where all the younger people are. And there's quite a following that I've developed there, even though I hardly ever use it. In fact, I don't use it. I only use it to promote this show. And I don't know too many people like to go cross-platform. It's just weird, but to me, that they don't, but they never do. So now the simulcasting software that we use, it has a deal, I guess, with TikTok where we can now apply if we've been on the air with an established podcast that's been established for I think 6 months, which this show's been on longer than that.
Yeah.
Then you can actually apply to live stream from TikTok without the necessary 10,000 followers that they typically require. So you get that notification back. I actually applied today. I just saw it come up on my screen today when I was doing the pre-show tests, and there it was that we could do this now. So you find out in 1 business day, it says. So hopefully by the time we air our next summer special, which is going to be coming up here on August 20th, I believe, for another Open Lines, Open Topics for the second special, hopefully we'll be able to live stream from TikTok, where I think we actually have quite a large number of people there that would watch it or find it interesting. People are always asking me to do more on TikTok. Well, this would be a way to do that. I don't really like the platform that much myself, but I do understand that this is, it's a demographic thing. Typically, Facebook people are my age or older, maybe 5, 10 years younger. But typically the teenagers, the 20-somethings, 30-somethings are on TikTok. Instagram's more varied, it's kind of weird, and I don't like X. I'm sorry, there was no reason to ban me from the platform.
Right.
And there was absolutely no reason for the new administration of X to not reinstate my account. I know many people that were banned under the old administration with Twitter.
And reinstated.
I was not. There is no reason. I did not incite
Bad fella,
violence.
you.
Because it
Bad
said
fella.
somewhere in the account, somewhere in whatever documentation Twitter X has, it says that I incited violence, and
Right.
no one's obviously taking the time to go and look to see if any of that was true. It was clearly a bigoted, prejudicial response to many of the controversial subjects that I talked about when I was on that platform. So no, they're not getting any of our money. I don't really care. If you really care about this show and you're following Jamie on X, then why don't you subscribe to the YouTube channel? It'd be much better.
I'm on there every once in a while now.
Yep.
But I don't do too much.
Come over to YouTube's where it's at. Okay, that's where the majority, and Facebook too. Facebook and YouTube are our largest audience. It used to be Twitter. It used to be X though.
Yeah.
When we would have like hundreds of viewers,
Right.
it was X, because X pushed the algorithm through.
Yep.
The problem we also have is that because of the subject matter of this show, and that there is still much subtle bigotry out there in the social media world, they kind of suppress church streams, I find. Particularly ones that are not monetized. So they have nothing to gain from us. And so the algorithm doesn't push us through. So unless you know to come to this channel and watch it, they're not going to give us much help. So Facebook sometimes promotes us. Twitter always did. On Jamie's account, but YouTube never does. So we're probably going to start seeing more modest numbers for a while. And what you have up on the screen right now is our Twitch numbers, which is always very low. I don't think anybody watches this on Twitch.
I don't even know what that is.
It's just another streaming platform, usually for gamers. It's mostly for gamers.
Okay.
They try to branch out into podcasts. It doesn't seem to be working. And Facebook is mostly on demand later, after the fact, and YouTube is where most of the people tend to be. But we were having a lot from X. We were having hundreds watching on X on Jamie's account. Unfortunately, that's not happening. So, they need to come over to Twitter and watch here. I'm sorry, come over to YouTube and watch here. Get off of Twitter X. It's just not worth it. Okay, so I also have a QR code up there. That's been a fairly new thing. It showed up a couple episodes ago.
Fancy.
That is it is fancy. It's one of the nice, easy ways that you can help support this show. So you can just click on that if you're on your smart device. If you click on that just by pushing that QR code, it will bring up the donation page for this show. Please give us a donation if you find value in this. Particularly a monthly donation a monthly pledge would give us a lot of support to help keep the show on the air. And if you're just watching on your TV, you can just put your smartphone up to it and look at it as if you're taking a picture, and then you can click the link that will come up when your phone sees the QR code. Nice, easy way to give support to the show, because the church pays for this itself. It's not supported by ads. We have a few ads on the audio only version on Spreaker, but that's only to support the cost of the archive there. Okay, and that doesn't even cover it. Doesn't even come close to covering it. It makes about $25 to $30 a quarter, so not much money. But the rest of this is not monetized. It's all paid by the church and its supporters. So please become a supporter of this show if you enjoy it, if you find value in it. Made it very easy there for you. Okay, so let's get started tonight with liturgical libations. Unfortunately, I don't think we have Father Chris here with us as originally
I think he would
planned.
approve.
But this is a bourbon that Jamie got me for my birthday. We're going to sample it
That's
here.
a heavy pour.
Yeah, I'll give me a lot less than that.
Sorry,
perfect.
I got a Jamie pour in mine.
Yeah, that's okay. So tell us what this is.
This is you say basil, I say basil, Hayden. And it's a subtle smoke. It's a limited release. And it's Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And it is aged in
hickory, right? It's hickory smoked
hickory.
wood.
Finished in hickory smoked new barrels. All right, I'm trying to read this in the dark. It's a special release dedicated to delicate campfire notes that elevate it with a maple sweetness, soft char, and perfected second to none with a subtle smoke on the back end. Says you'll taste the hickory, caramel, and it's a velvety mouthful at the end. We had a few sips of this the other night, I'm not going to lie. And it was very good.
It was very good, but we're going to do it again here for all of you. And I highly recommend it.
Basically, Basil Hayden doesn't put out anything bad. He introduced me to it, and I've had pretty much everything they put out. This is a brand new release. Like I said, it's a limited release.
It is limited.
And it is just a good bourbon to sip on. It's
very good, yeah. It's a very smooth, very easy. It doesn't go down hard. Sometimes bourbon can have that. They call it the Kentucky hug. It's the burning sensation.
Yeah.
The stronger the alcohol, and typically bourbon is a stronger.
Grandmother's embrace.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Warm hug around your chest.
The warm hug, and it can burn, and this does not. This one does not. It doesn't even need water. It's just burn. It really is. Well, it doesn't. I don't find it burning at all. I think it's perfect.
Got a little heat on the back end, but you can taste the wood tannin.
Yep, you can. It's well, it's you can
like
taste
it.
the hickory.
I can sit here and sip on this all night. Obviously, I won't, but
yeah.
real quick, I'd like to wish my dad a happy birthday.
Yeah.
Domino, a.k.a. Boxcar Bill.
Happy birthday.
Big 7'5". Love you, Dad.
Yeah. Happy birthday to him.
Yep. Hopefully he's eating a big steak right about now.
So we're all a bunch of cancers here, aren't we? Well, no, it's past. He's past Cancer now.
He's just barely a Leo.
So today's his birth. So he's like on the cusp of Cancer and Leo.
He's Leo.
So he is Leo technically, but he probably has a lot of Cancerian traits.
Yes. Yeah. Like I'm a daddy's girl.
Yeah.
So I get it from him.
Oh,
so,
there you go. There you go.
Yeah. So happy birthday, Dad. Hope you're eating a big old ribeye right now.
That's awesome. Okay, so we have joining us from Tennessee, Brandon Milam. How you doing tonight, Brandon?
I'm pretty good. I've been waiting forever to finally show my libation.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, we've seen this before, haven't we? The audience hasn't, but it's a flavored rosé.
I see.
Yeah.
Peach cotton candy wine straight from the winery at one of the hundreds in Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it any good? You not tried it yet, or you have?
Oh, no, I'm telling you, don't hate it till you try it.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm good. I will send you some. Don't you worry.
Well, I'll give it to Jamie. Jamie can handle it. She likes that sweet stuff.
I do like sweet. I don't like overbearingly sweet. I'm not much of a wine person, but I mean I'll try anything once.
I don't know if that constitutes a wine. It's more like flavored grape juice, maybe that's been fermented.
Heck, I'd still try it. Don't drink that whole bottle tonight, Brandon. We need you.
My rule with wine is if it can't be used for the Eucharist, it can't be drunk. It's
You can use it for afterwards.
well, that'd be the only way you could, because you can't add flavors to liturgical wine. It has to be just the grape.
Yeah, and it's
just the grape. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right in here in this first segment with questions from the ether. What's our first one tonight, Brandon?
So the first question comes from April. Why are women forbidden from being priests or other church leaders in some groups?
Okay, so this is a good question because it is something that I think people don't really understand. They see it as an aspect of Christian misogyny. They see it as a type of sexism.
pretty much what we were taught growing up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So you got into the deep.
And there's
deeper
people that
meanings of
still
it.
hold these opinions today. It's not accurate, of course, but they think they know more about the religion than we do. So and part of the problem is it's not all their fault. I'll be the first to concede that theological education is poor today, particularly at the layman's level. Unless you're a graduate student, trying to get a PhD or at least a master's in theology, most of what we talk about on this show, that deeper religious content, is going to be completely new to a lot of people because these things are just not discussed. And honestly, I think people in the Catholic and Orthodox churches just take for granted the realities that are taught without really understanding why. They just take it for what it is. And I think people think, well, church was born in an earlier time where, women were more marginalized. So it's just continuing that. And it's not that at all. In fact, I would say that Christianity is perhaps the only religion where women are not marginalized. It's the only religion where, in fact, they are honored and placed in positions that are absolutely leadership roles. I think what people want or expect from this is perfect equality, but perfect equality does not exist esoterically. That is, it's about symbiosis. It's about complementary realities. It's not about perfect equality. We don't want perfect equality. That would be actually problematic from an esoteric vantage point, which I guess on a show like tonight, which is, open lines, open topics, if this is something you want to explore in more detail, we can do that. But I'll try to answer the question in the most simplistic way so that people can at least get a satisfying answer to this. So it's not misogyny, of course, and it's absolutely not sexism. It's not even forbidden. It's not forbidden. That's not what the restriction is. So that
Here's the part where a lot of people need to turn the volume up and listen.
Yeah, please do. Please do, because this is very, very important. So holy orders is a sacrament. And sacraments are governed by a part of theology known as sacramental theology. And there are certain requirements that must be met in order for a sacrament to be conferred validly. Okay? Now, anybody that's taken my courses in catechesis to become confirmed in this church, in the Nicolean Catholic Church, will know what I'm about to talk about because you've heard me spend too much time discussing it probably already. And that is, for sacraments to be valid, they have to be full. There has to be certain criteria met: proper form, proper intent, proper matter. Okay? So proper matter is the substance of the sacrament, what's required for the sacrament to occur. A proper form is the ritual process through which that sacrament is conferred. Proper intent is the mind of the church that the person conferring the sacrament adopts. Usually that is the priest or the bishop in certain cases. there are ordinary ministers of a sacrament and there's extraordinary ministers of a sacrament. So the ordinary minister, for example, of baptism is a priest, but the extraordinary minister of baptism is any lay person. Okay, because any lay person can actually confer baptism. Now, they shouldn't. You should be a part of a parish and you should go to your priest. You should get a formal record. There's things that you might overly complicate your child's spiritual future if you do it yourself, because then the church doesn't have any record that it was done. And if they need to, let's say they want to become a priest and you baptized your son yourself and didn't informally, it's a valid baptism. And it works just as well as the one that the priest gives. But if they need to go and become a priest, now they're going to have a hell of a hard time proving that they've been baptized. Right. And they need that proof in order to become a priest. So you could overly complicate your child's spiritual future if they decide to pick up a religious life or take on a religious life or get married in the Catholic Church. They'll need that proof too. These are things that are eliminated if you do it the right way. But that doesn't mean it's not valid. What we're talking about here is not whether or not it's the best way to do it, but what's the valid way to do it. Because in order for a sacrament to actually work, it has to be valid. Otherwise, you're just pretending, and no grace is being conferred when you're just pretending. All right. So when we're talking about the sacrament of holy orders, okay, the proper matter. This is the tough part. So let me make it easier, because everyone understands Eucharist typically, and I mean you don't understand the mysteries of Eucharist, but you understand what communion is, right? So the proper matter should be easy. Anyone could probably answer what the proper matter is. Okay, it's simple, right? The bread and the wine. All right, that's the proper matter. You can't use Doritos and Pepsi. Now, they tried this once in the 60s during the Second Vatican Council. They thought, all the rules are gone now. We can do whatever the hell we want. So let's start using Doritos and Pepsi and instead of bread and wine. They tried that. It's invalid because it doesn't have proper matter. Okay? Even if you have your proper intent and your proper form, if the proper matter is not there, which is why we can't use Brandon's wine, his cotton candy wine, peach wine, whatever it is. You can't use that because that's not proper matter for the Eucharist. It has to be just pure grape juice. That's it. No additives of that kind. Just natural, what would be natural fermented grape juice. Okay, that's proper matter. So when it comes to conferring the sacrament of holy orders, which is how a person's ordained, a deacon, bishop, deacon, priest, or bishop. Okay, there's 3 levels of the sacrament. It starts with the diaconate, then you're ordained to the priesthood, and then if you're called to it, and there's a reason to bring you in, then it's the bishopric from the episcopacy, and then you would govern a bishopric. So that is the. That's the proper. That's how the sacrament is organized. But the proper matter is a male. Can't be on a female. Just like Doritos can't be a replacement for a host. Can't be corn chips. Okay, it has to be wheat. It has to be just wheat and water. That's it. Bread made from wheat and water. No additives, any kind. All right. And then when it comes to the sacrament of holy orders, it has to be on a male. So you might say, well, why? Why can't it be on a female? Well, for the same reason that we've talked about on this show, that the sacrament of matrimony can't be conferred on a gay couple. It's not because the church is bigoted. Okay. It's not because the church doesn't like gay people. All right. Not this church. This church is not going to, does not have any animosity towards the gay community whatsoever. We have been very supportive of their particular challenges that they have to face in society with situations like this, right? And you can't choose necessarily who you love. You fall in love with who you fall in love with. Okay, so there's we need to honor that. We need to respect that, but that doesn't mean we can just confer matrimony on them, because the proper matter of matrimony is a male and a female conferring it on each other, which is part of the proper form as well. Can't be 2 males, can't be 2 females. The sacramental theology requires that it be a male and a female conferring it on each other. So for holy orders, the sacramental theology requires that it be conferred on a male. It cannot be conferred on a female. Okay? Otherwise, the sacrament is invalid. So churches that have actual valid apostolic succession, who have decided without the benefit of an ecumenical council to say, well, our church is going to ordain women, all those ordinations are invalid. They're not really priests. They're just pretending. It sounds unfair, but it's the way the sacramental theology is. You can't change sacramental theology. It is what it is. This is how it's established. So you might say, well, why is it this way? Well, for holy orders, the only way the sacrament of holy orders works is if it is conducted in persona Christi. It's not a mere symbolic office. It's the fundamental nature of the divine masculine itself, as represented perfectly in the personhood of Jesus Christ. So, and I want this to be very clear because the same is true for exorcists, okay? I am not an exorcist. There's no such thing as an exorcist. There are instruments of God's grace. Now, we call the activity exorcism. We call the office an exorcist. But the reality of it is that there is only one exorcist. There only ever was, and there only ever will be, and that is Jesus Christ. Okay? The same thing goes for any of the graces of the church. I don't get up there and give you my grace. When I confer a sacrament, whether it be baptism, hear your confession, or even ordain a new priest, it is Christ working through me. The divine masculine, which is the creative principle, if we want to get esoteric now, there's two principles that make up reality. The active, creative, yang, masculine principle, and the passive, feminine, yin principle. And the nature of the grace of Christ comes through the creative faculty. Therefore, the sacrament requires that matter be masculine. It's also likened to how God wrote this into the symbology of our own biology, because think of how reproduction works. Okay, in order for, remember, the creative masculine principle is sacrificial in nature, and the Christian priesthood is a sacrificial priesthood because it is representing Christ dying on the cross to shed his grace for your sake. In the same way that a sperm must die in order to fertilize the egg, that the feminine nature then nurtures and sustains, which is her function. And this is perfectly represented in Jesus being the representative of divine masculine, and the Virgin Mother being the representative of the divine feminine. Now, it's perfectly set, and no one had any problems with this until the sexual revolution. So it's only modernity, once again, rearing its ugly head, trying to mess with a good thing. Okay, but this is why it is what it is. So it's not misogyny, it's not sexism, it's metaphysical reality. Now, I know that that's a hard thing for people to accept in today's day and age, because people today want everybody's delusion to be their own, your own too. It's not good enough. Okay, so you identify, you're born a male, but you identify as a female. Well, good for you. I'm not buying into your delusion, okay? It doesn't mean I hate you. It doesn't mean I won't care for you. It doesn't mean I won't even serve you as a pastor. It doesn't mean I won't help you if you're in need. It doesn't mean I won't love you if you're part of my life. But it does mean I'm not going to buy into your delusion. I would be doing you a disservice if I did that. And that is a delusional thought. Okay? Your chromosomes don't lie. Okay? Now, you might feel differently. And that's understandable because there are reasons for why that could happen. But it doesn't change the reality of your chromosomes. The same with sacramental theology. It doesn't change the reality of what proper matter requires in order for that to be conferred. So hopefully that answers the question and puts it to rest for once and for all.
Yeah, someone will probably ask it again, but it was a pretty good answer for now.
Okay, good.
So the next one, what is going on in the book of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 34 through 36? I'll go ahead and read it for like some context for listeners. It is, do not think that I came to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I came to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a person's enemies will be the members of his household.
Okay, so this sounds like once again, anybody that follows my my mass and has listened to some of my sermons knows that and is a student. If you're a student, you know this too. Jesus is always working through reversal. And usually those reversals are reversals in expectation. So it's like, how does he defeat death? Well, he dies and faces it. All right. How do you defeat death? You have to do the same thing too. That's why you still die. Even though sin has been resolved through the cross, the consequence still has to be resolved through you, which is why you still die. Okay. Death is the penalty for sin, but sin has been rectified, but you facing death has not. So you have to follow in his footsteps and do the same thing. Same thing here. Jesus does not, you want the whole buddy Jesus. You want the Jesus with the little child on his lap, smiling and bringing peace and all this stuff. And of course, Jesus is about peace, but the process is not peaceful. Peace must be forged, usually through great cost. Violence is one way in which that's achieved, which is why war is sometimes necessary to protect. Okay, it's not like it's a good thing. It's never a good thing. War is not a good thing, but sometimes it's an essential thing to protect peace. Sometimes the only way to have peace is to be the most vicious contender, so no one will mess with you.
World War II.
Yeah. So Jesus is making clear in this passage the reasons and the objective behind his incarnation. Okay? So he comes here because the earth is under the authority of evil. That's what the fallen world has done. That's what we brought into this universe, what we brought into creation when we fell under, Christian theology. Okay? It basically unleashed the forces of darkness to take over. Okay? Jesus incarnates to fix that. Evil's not going to go down without a fight, because our sinful nature doesn't want to give up that sin. Sin sometimes feels good. When you're really possessed by sin, any sin can feel good, which is why serial killers and rapists and child molesters enjoy their activities. They enjoy killing people. They enjoy hurting people. They get pleasure from it because they're so consumed by that sin, by that evil. And that's the nature of the entire world. You don't have to go through these extreme sins to see the same result, in the sense that we enjoy sinning, even if it's just simple things. Right? We don't sin because it hurts. We sin because we're trying to get away from the hurt. That's why lies happen. Why do children lie? Because they don't want to get in trouble, right? Being in trouble hurts. So we lie, we sin. Okay? So sin is pleasurable. And Jesus knows this. He's not coming here stupid. He's coming here with full knowledge of what is required of him, what is required of his function as the Savior, as the only Savior that could ever be, the perfect Savior, and he's here to put an end to this evil. Okay? He knows it's not going to go down without a fight. This is why we still sin. This is why he gave us the church. People are like, we don't need churches. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. The very fact that you say that automatically tells me that you don't realize how badly you need it. Because if you didn't need it, you would understand that you actually do. If you think it wouldn't work like that. So the fact of the matter is, the church becomes the instrument through which we will then fight or take on the darkness, which is why the church is called here the living, or at least what we consider the living, is called the church militant. See, the church doesn't call us the living, really. We just see ourselves as the living. We're not the living. We're the church militant. You know who the real living are? The church triumphant. They're the ones who are in eternal life, and they're the ones that succeeded. We're trying to get there, church triumphant. And then there's, of course, the church suffering, which is the, purgatory. But we're right now, here on earth, we're the church militant. Why? Because we must fight. We must fight the powers of darkness. We must fight against our own sinful nature, and we must rise triumphant through the grace of Christ. That's a fight. That's a war. Yep. And that's going to create all sorts of disorder. So yes, Jesus comes to not bring peace, but a sword, because it's the only way we can restore the perfection that was originally intended here on this earth. Okay, he comes here to restore this planet, not merely save it, but to restore it. Okay, to restore us so that the universe can be restored. And that means evil has to be eradicated. Evil's not going to go down without a fight. Therefore, there's going to be war. And he knows this. So that's what that means. That's what the gospel's saying there.
And the final question comes from Abel. He asks, is esotericism against Jesus? Am I betraying God by pursuing this study?
I don't know. Are you? Only you can answer that. Are you going to use esoteric knowledge to go against Jesus? Well, then I guess it's against Jesus. Are you going to use it to enhance your relationship to understanding him? Then how could that be against Jesus? You're using it to know him better. Esotericism is a tool, just like a hammer. All right, you can build a house with a hammer, or you can smash someone's skull in with it and murder them. The hammer's not the problem. You're the problem.
Knowledge is knowledge. It's what you do with it that matters.
Exactly. So the fact of the matter is, okay, when it comes down to something like, when it comes down to something like, esotericism, it can be used very badly. You can use it to create much disorder, disarray. You could harm people with it. You could harm yourself with it. Or you can use it to enhance your understanding of God. It's up to you. I mean, I'm not here to make that judgment. That's not my role. My role is none of us are here to judge. We're here to, those of us who follow Christ are here to guide. And those of us who don't, do whatever the hell we want. And there's two kinds here. So you take your pick. Okay? But who you want to be and what you want to do with the information that's given to you is up to you. So esotericism is as bad or as good as you want it to be. Okay? It's bad or as good as you want it to be. Only you can answer that question. It's entirely in your hands. Now, I know that there's some pastors out there, certainly we live around them, I think, that think that anything, that has anything to do with esotericism, the occult, secret knowledge, whatever, is, of course, evil. It's got to be evil. That is a preschooler's level of understanding God. I wouldn't give it that much credit. It's more like an infant trying to understand, where's the nipple so I can suck. That's the level of intellectual prowess that exhibits, in my opinion. Am I insulting? Yeah, I'm trying to be very insulting because that's stupid to teach people something like that. Okay? Knowledge is never the problem. What is the problem is how you use it, because your nature is fallen. And if you don't have control over your sinful nature, then the tools of this world can become corrupted in your hands, which is why the Bible doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. Money's just a tool. Look, you can build churches with it. You can build ministry. Money's what keeps this show on the air. Money is what allows me to do this work. All right, money's not the problem here. Money's good here. But there's a whole bunch of people that do a lot of harm with it. Look at all the governments of the world and how they squander resources and harm people and do all sorts of things. It's not the money that's the problem. It's the use. The only thing you can ever blame for anything is yourself. That's it. The only thing you can ever blame for anything that goes wrong is yourself. Okay? Scapegoating, blaming inanimate objects, these people that are against guns. Oh, we got to get rid of the guns because they're killing people. I've never seen a gun kill anybody. I've seen people take a gun and shoot someone, but I've never seen a gun kill someone to date. I've only seen people kill people.
I've seen a person stabbed to death with a fork. So are we going to ban forks?
Well, I mean, let's face it. Look what happens in Europe where the guns are banned. They just use sharp implements.
Yep.
I mean, they find a way. They'll use cars. They'll drive cars into crowds. There's a lot of ways to kill people, right? It's not the car killing it. It's not the fork killing. It's not the gun. It's not the hammer.
Human heart you got to change, not the tool they use.
Exactly. So it always comes back down to that. All right. And that's the same situation here. Esotericism is not good or bad. It's what you intend to do with it. If you're going to use it to harm people, it's going to be, look, that's on you. That is on you. And it's only on you. All right. Let's stop blaming the devil. All right. Devil has no power unless you start giving him power. You make the decision to give him power. And let me tell you something about the devil, okay? Because all these people are afraid of demons and the devil. We've been dealing with that around here. People are afraid of us because we do exorcisms. It's like, oh no, you're afraid of us because we follow the gospel? I feel sorry for you.
The devil is you.
Yeah. The only person, if you fear the devil, you need to cease and desist calling yourself a Christian. You are no Christian, all right? Because that tells me you don't have any faith. You don't even understand it, let alone have it. Okay? There's no excuse for it. Not at all. Okay? So that's the reality of it. I don't know. Brandon, anything you want to add to that?
I was going to say something ironic that I saw the other day, and I think, Jamie, you'll appreciate this. I was on a delivery during my job the other day, and on someone's truck, on the back of it, had a picture of Revenge of the Sith, Anakin killing the younglings, and it was captioned, "No one blamed the lightsaber."
Right.
I took a picture of it. I loved it so much.
I'd have it on the back of the truck. Yep.
And look, I believe in a person's right to own guns. I have them myself. I usually take them anywhere I go. Okay, I'm usually armed, but I'm not like I'm a gun rights and lunatic. I mean, I just feel that responsible use is what's required here, and I do think that there's a large number of the population that really has no business owning a gun. I think you should have to prove that you're mature enough to be able to do so. And I don't think adulthood, it starts at 18 for everybody. If that were true, then the drinking age wouldn't be 21, would it? So I think a lot of it has to do with the individual. And I think we try to generalize everything to compartments and make everyone fit into these neat little boxes when you'll never have that. But that's bureaucracy that creates that. The fact of the matter is, it always comes down to personal responsibility. So if someone says, do you think we should own guns? Well, I think responsible people should own guns. Absolutely. I think irresponsible people should have no access to them whatsoever. And that's for anything. It's for esotericism. I have a disclaimer when you sign up for my course that this course is going to rattle your world. It's going to shake your paradigms. You're probably, in fact, if it doesn't happen, then you're just not paying attention in class. but you're probably going to become a nihilist for a little while when you take my course. You're going to fall victim to nihilism. Every student does that, takes it sincerely. Okay. And I have a little warning that says, if you're not spiritually mature enough, you have no business taking my class. Now, that's not for me to decide. I'm not a judge. Okay. I'm not here to, just like I said, I'm not going to judge who gets to have guns and who doesn't. I'm not going to judge who gets to take my class and who doesn't. That's for you to decide. Are you mature enough to take the class? Are you mature enough to own a gun? You decide that. Okay. And, just because you're an idiot doesn't exempt you from making a bad decision. It doesn't excuse your bad decision. You need to be able to say, you know what? I'm not mature enough. I shouldn't do this. I know people that do that. I had a friend once that they said I could never own a gun. I wouldn't trust myself with it. I don't know what that meant. I don't know if that meant that they would shoot their husband because he gets them pissed off.
For your temper.
Yeah. If your temper's so bad that you could, do something you'd regret or even commit suicide. I don't know. But that's not for me to decide. What's for me to tell you is that you're the only person that can make the decision. It's in your hands. God gave you the freedom to act. Okay? Start using it. All right? And that does require maturity. So I would say that your job, and it's all of our jobs, is to build maturity. And we do that through growing in our relationship to God and taking that seriously, not being apathetic or the multitude of other things that people do. This is a perfect example here, and it works. It applies. And I'm not using gun rights to be political. I'm using gun rights to be relative, or relevant, rather, not relative, relevant, so that you can relate to this on a level that does speak to most people, because most people have an opinion on that. And regardless of which side of your fence on, it still is the same message to you. You must be mature, and you're the only one who can decide that maturity. You're the only one who can say, this is for me, this is not for me. All right. Be smart enough to be able to make those kinds of decisions. And if you find that you're not smart enough to make those kinds of decisions, then make the safe one. Default to the safe choice. Okay? Immature, probably don't take my class. Immature, probably don't own a gun. That's how I look at it. All right? And probably don't get a driver's license either, because there's a lot of shitty drivers out there.
Let's not have kids either.
Yeah, let's not have kids, right? Let's keep the safe choices all the way around until you grow up. And some people don't grow up until they're almost dead. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Okay? And I'm not faulting people for being less than they should be. I'm faulting them for not recognizing that they're not ready. You need to be able to do that. Okay, you need to be able to do that. I don't know, Brandon. Anything else you can think of on that one? We got about 10 minutes before we start the next break.
No, I think we're good with that. There is a Facebook question.
Okay. Yeah, we got a few questions.
I hope I'm going to read this correctly. From Michael.
Yeah.
It recommended to buy a haunted doll or object. Bishop Long said, be very careful. Demons play human spirits.
Okay, well.
How about no?
I would say yes. There's no reason. Why would you ever need to buy a haunted doll?
No, you don't need to.
Even an alleged one. Why would you need that? That's not something you need. In fact, I don't even keep them. Look, when people send them to us to be cleansed or whatever, I exercise them and I send them to Zach so he can keep them in his museum.
We have a containment cabinet to put them in.
Mm-hmm, we sure do. So, that kind of thinking is really not too... I would say, no, you don't need to own that. There's no reason anyone ever need to own this, okay? So I would stay away from that. Now, as far as demons pretending to be human spirits, they don't need to pretend. They are human spirits. And I don't mean that demons are human. I mean that humans are what create the relationship with the demon, okay? So you have all the spirits. Okay, let's talk about demons a little bit. We got time for this, I think. Let's talk about demons, okay? Because there's... a lot of misunderstanding as to what a demon really is. Okay, so you have I'm going to make this, this is like metaphysics 101. Okay. We're going to try to make this as elementary as possible so that anyone can at least grasp it. I'm not trying to talk down to you. It's just, I recognize that without a lot of prerequisite knowledge, some of what I'm about to say can be confusing because you've been taught certain things and those things are not exactly accurate. I prefer to get into the more of the precise understanding, which is what we're doing here, which is what this show is about. So let's kind of use this as a chance to kind of break this down better. So we have two aspects of creation, right? There's the physicality, the corporeal, and then there's the non-physical, the incorporeal. All right? That's what makes up the universe. Most of the universe, like 99% of it, is incorporeal. Okay? Your mind, your feelings, your thoughts are all part of the incorporeal parts of the universe. You can't touch those things. You can't feel those things.
They're there.
But they're there and they shape everything else. Because I can tell you right now, no one's ever murdered anyone through physicality. They've always murdered people through passion, pleasure, whatever it is that causes it. Jealousy. Murder has a lot of origins, but they're all incorporeal. Every single one of them. All right. So most of the universe is incorporeal. Now, the universe is also made up as things are physically organized or incorporeally organized, according to, which side of nature you're talking about, the physical or the non-physical. It also has two functional aspects: the creative, as we talked about in one of the earlier questions, and the passive. Okay, this is yin and yang in Chinese Taoist philosophy, but it applies across the board. Okay, this was what makes up the bilateral nature of human beings. Your brain is bilateral. You have your left brain, which is where the logic is, the reasoning center, and then you have your right brain, the creative, the artistic. Okay, and the corpus callosum sort of helps them communicate, but they are their own thing. You actually have two brains. Right? You have two brains. You don't really have one. And they have their own different functions because they parallel the nature of creation. We're the epitome of creation in Christian theology. So therefore we encapsulate all of it and its nature is reflected in us. Okay, which is what this is about. So the creative nature is what we would interpret in Christian theological terms to be the angelic celestial realm. Because this is what the will of God brings forth into the abyss is creation. He brings something from nothing. That's creation. And he's constantly in the process of creating. We have a creator God. Okay? And so that is, again, the masculine active principle, which is why God is typically referred to as male, even though he's not gendered and he doesn't have a sex. That's why we just use he and him, because it reflects that masculine principle of creation and the active principle of creation. Okay. So that's all the angelic. The angelic realm is the instruments, the sentient instruments of creation operating in the universe. But there's also the reabsorption passive principle, which is where the energy of creation comes from. It's a recycling plant, you might say. And so all the energy that is fading out gets reabsorbed and then is made new again and is created all over again. So it's constantly in that state of creation. Well, it's also been constantly in a state of being reabsorbed. And that is the demonic realm. But it's not evil. It's not evil. It's part of the function of creation itself to have this, because this is what powers creation, to have that reabsorption. It's kind of the same reason that, why cremate a corpse or why bury it? Why not just leave it in your living room? Why not? Nobody would think of doing that because you need to do something with it, right? It's life is over. Its usefulness is over. And it just creates problems if you keep it around. So you need to send it back into reabsorption. We do that through creation or burial, typically. Same thing goes here. The whole universe is doing this. It has to, when it's exhausted its use, it gets reabsorbed and then made new again. Incidentally, this is what the reincarnation really is, not this nonsense about, I choose my life and I have these soul contracts and I'm going to come back and I got to fulfill them. No. That's a bunch of nonsense. What was real here is the reabsorption part of it and being made new again, which is what resurrection's all about, folks. The death on the cross, resurrection, same thing, same principle being reflected in Christian theology, same way. And so the demonic actually stems from that, but it's not evil. It's not evil until it interacts with the human being's proclivity to sin, which the Jewish people call the Yetzer Hara. That's when it becomes evil. They don't need to pretend to be human because once a demon becomes what we understand to be a fallen angel, it is operating already through the humanity. Of course, it's going to reflect and respond in a human way because that's where it came from. That's its origin point. Now, people don't understand that. That's very difficult demonology. That's real demonology. You want to know more? Go look me up on TikTok. I've got a whole series there. You can listen to them. They're 3 minutes each. I think there's like 30 of them.
That's why most demons come through someone's own trauma.
Yes.
We create them.
We create them. Okay? But that doesn't mean they're not real. In fact, it means
Very
they're
real.
actually more real.
More real, yeah.
Okay? So it's confusing because you've been taught that your mind is not real and you've been taught that the world out here is the real world. No, the real world's in here and all of this is projection. Oh yeah, it's real as far as you use it to be real. But I can tell you right now, this bottle of whiskey has a lot of value right now, but if all life on earth was dead and this was sitting here on this table, it would have no intrinsic value whatsoever.
I guess we better drink it all
I
then,
guess we
just in
better.
case.
I guess we better. And why is that? Because we give it its value. We make our incorporeal reality makes the corporeality of this whiskey valuable. Otherwise, it's nothing. Like everything else, nothing means anything until you assign value to it. We typically do that through fondness and love, which is a creative faculty. So we give value when we love something or have fondness for something. That's creative, and that's why God is love.
That's why it's so bad to hate or
Yes.
be angry and let it fester and not let it go.
Because you're
The longer you hang on
adopting-
to it, you're creating a demon.
You're adopting also through that kind of activity the faculties of reabsorption, which is not your nature. You were designed to be a creator. You're made in God's image.
You make yourself sick.
Yeah. You're not meant to be destructive, which is why all destructive activity ultimately is condemned by law. Why murder's not okay. Why rape is not okay. Okay? Because these are destructive actions. They are not becoming of a person who was made in God's image, the creator of all things. We're designed to sustain and create and build and make new, not destroy. That's the lesson, and that's what demons really are. All right, so we're
Demonology
going.
101.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, we're going to take our break here, first break, and then we'll start getting to all of your questions. Start logging them now. Moderators, start finding them. We don't have Father Chris, so Brandon,
I see two.
the burden is on you to make sure we don't miss any, okay? We'll be back after this. Don't go away.
my love. Let's talk about love. Tell me what do you like? Tell me where do you wanna see me naked? Let's talk about love. Tell me what do you like? Tell me what do you like? La 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 love. Let's talk about let's talk about love. Let's talk about la 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 love. Let's talk about I'm gonna be better, better than you thought. I promise I won't jealous, you don't deserve it all. I'm gonna be better, 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 better. Let's talk about let's talk about let's talk about love. Let's talk about la 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 love.
Welcome back, everyone, to the second hour of Vestiges After Dark. We are now getting ready to take all of your pressing questions. You can also leave us comments or tell us a story. Whatever's on your mind, we will talk about. The number to call is 802-321-0073. That's 802-321-0073. That's all you have to do. There's no queue anymore. You just call, and if you get a busy sign or whatever, just keep trying. Okay? And of course, we're looking at the chats. Our moderators are checking the chats all over the internet. So a lot of people like to just put them in there, and that's perfectly fine. We will answer each and every one of them as time allows going forward. So we've got 2 hours to go. So plenty of time. Log your questions now, though, so that we can get a whole list. All right? We'll be right back in just a moment. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the second hour here, Vestiges After Dark. I'm going to go ahead and put that phone number up on the screen so that it is hopefully easy. Oh, goodness, why is it putting it over there? That's not going to be useful. Let's put this down over here, and hopefully you can read that. All right, let's try that. Let's see if that works. Okay. There we go. So that's the number for those of you on screen there, and for those of you who are just listening audio only, that number again is 802-321-0073, 802-321-0073. We'll do our best to get to calls if you want to call in, but I know the chats are more popular right now. So let's go ahead, Brandon, and get us to our first question for tonight.
So the first question comes from Facebook, Timothy. Mm-hmm. He asks, what is speaking in tongue and why does it happen?
Well, that's called, that's part of the charismata, okay? It is a gift of the Holy Spirit. Now, I think it's become somewhat distorted in the modern day and age through Pentecostalism and whatnot, where it's turned into some kind of gibberish that people will argue is proof positive that the Holy Spirit has seized you, that you've been slain in the Spirit, to use charismatic language, which I do not subscribe to, by the way. I think that's just a very, well, let's just say it's a very bad approach to Christianity. The original purpose of it, honestly, was to allow the apostles to speak in languages that they did not know, so that the gospel could be shared in places that spoke different tongues from them. And that's really what speaking in tongues was. As far as this modern iteration of random, utterances or gibberish, I don't subscribe to any validity to that at all. I don't. I've had experiences with that. I think it is a mental phenomenon. I do not find the Holy Spirit to be present in that phenomenon. That is my professional opinion as a bishop and also as a researcher of the paranormal. I do not find validity in it. I just don't. Okay, I know that there's a lot of Christians out there that do, and that's fine. If you want to subscribe to that, that's okay. I'm not going to fault you for it, but I am the one being asked right now, and I'm going to give you my best opinion, and I think that is the best way to approach it. Yeah. The reason it doesn't happen anymore, we were like, well, why don't we speak? Why doesn't the Holy Spirit come down and allow us to speak in languages so that we can share the gospel? The reality is that's not needed anymore. Okay, it is. We live in a world that's far more globalized today, whether we like it or not. It's the truth, and that kind of phenomenon is not necessary anymore. There's education. You want to learn a language, you want to go be a missionary in another country, you can learn a language, and you can do it. Those resources exist today. You don't need special miraculous abilities to be able to do that. And I think that's one of the reasons one of the things that we need to always keep in mind is that God is not a circus act, okay? He's going to always choose the most mundane way to answer your prayers and reach out to you. The most mundane of ways. The very miraculous subtle. Almost never. Yeah, it's usually very subtle. The miraculous almost never. Okay? Because it becomes a distraction. Right? If we were to live in a world where there's miracles happening all around us all the time, then this becomes the focus of what people join the religion for, which is what we're seeing in the charismatic movement. Yeah. People just want the phenomenon. They want the experience. They want to be like, oh, God's tangible over there.
And I think that leads to it. I'm not going to just out and out say it's all bull crap. I believe there's probably some legitimate times where it does happen. But by and large, it's you've got a big group of people doing revival. They're getting in the spirit. They're getting in the mood, and it's almost like a group hysteria where everybody just feels the energy and the music, and they just feed off of each other, and it can turn into something like that. I think that's what the vast majority of it. If it's good worship, it's good worship, but I don't think it's legitimate for the most part.
Well, the problem I have with it is that a lot of these churches that have adopted that model have taught that if it doesn't happen to you, then you don't have the Holy Spirit.
Then something's wrong with you. Yeah, and that's dangerous.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't have a right to ever say that to
very
someone.
dangerous.
You can't determine. You are in no
Yeah,
position
who are you to
tell.
know how the spirit works through someone?
Exactly. You cannot judge that. That is not for you to judge. That is
And that's
not
what
what
I'm
discernment's
saying.
for.
There may be some legitimate issuances of it, but I by and large, what I've seen is kind of a hysteric.
Let me qualify, because you bring up a good point.
Right.
I need to qualify why I am professionally critical of it. And the reason for that, okay, is that God always operates through crystal clarity. Yeah. He's not the author of confusion. That's scripture. I'm sorry, but speaking gibberish is very confusing. I don't see the Holy Spirit ever doing anything that would actually emulate what the Bible says is actually demonic. Okay? One of the things we look for in the order of exorcists is if the potential victim of a demonic attack is speaking in tongues. Because one of the phenomenon that happens in people that are demonically possessed is the speaking in tongues. And it's not because the devil's trying to pretend to be the Holy Spirit. It's because he's the author of confusion.
Speaking a language they're not supposed to know, or they don't know.
Exactly.
Or wouldn't know.
That's the only time it happens now.
Yeah.
So, this is why I have that opinion. It's not to criticize people's faith and the particulars of their faith. God knows they criticize mine. But the reality of it is, this is why I'm hypercritical of it, because God is not the author of confusion, and there is no benefit to people speaking gibberish. That doesn't help anyone. Okay, it's just it's more delusional thinking, and I don't believe in delusional thinking. I don't think that's anything we should ever try to emulate. So
speaking of confusion,
yeah.
Someone made a comment up thread about, hey, is that Baphomet behind you? Well, yes, it is. So you may want to quell the confusion on why we have Baphomet on the wall next to the Last Supper.
Well, something's going to contain
among
it, right?
many other icons. I should point out.
This is our wall of worldviews. In fact, if you dig around back here, you'll find just about every worldview that exists.
Everybody's covered.
Yeah, and that's what this is. Remember, Baphomet has been falsely associated with the devil because, let's face it, this is one, he has the appearance of the archetypal form. Mm-hmm. But Baphomet does not represent the devil. Baphomet represents perfect cosmic order and balance, which is actually a good thing, by the way. And so I don't have it on my wall because it's like, ooh, let's get some Satan worship up there. I have it on my wall because I understand what it really is. So these Satanists that use it as like their symbol, they're just messing with you. They know. Well, they should know. Maybe not all of them, but the ones that are serious about their Satanism should know that.
Yeah, they're just taking advantage of people's ignorance.
Yes, they want you to be afraid of it. And it's like I'm sorry, you cannot scare me. Okay, you cannot scare me. I've been through too much. I don't feel fear. Okay, I've been through too much shit. And Baphomet's the last thing that I need to worry about. So he's on the wall to remind me that cosmic balance is a good thing. But if there's Satanists out there that are like, oh wow, that bishop's pretty cool. He's got our icon out there. Well, look, you stole it. Okay, you stole it for your own because that was never a Satanist symbol. A cult symbol, yes. Satanist, no. You made it demonic or satanic when
Yeah,
you knew
sorry about the pentagram too. We got that behind us too.
Yeah, that's back there.
Sorry,
yeah, that's back there.
Gothic churches had the pentagram way before witchcraft did.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
I mean, most of this stuff's been appropriated from Christian mystics, honestly.
Talk about appropriation.
Yeah, but that's okay because you're appropriating it from the evil
Those pesky Christians.
Yeah, the evil Christians.
Yeah.
So many people don't know who it is. That's what Mystic said there, and she's absolutely right. Okay, what's our next one?
Yeah, Brandon?
So our next one is a two-part question. It's from Art on YouTube.
Very good question.
Bishop mentioned about containment with regards to bad spirits harboring objects like dolls, for example. My question is, what actually prevents these spirits from going past their containment? Also, like the Haunted Museum that contains numerous haunted objects, mostly bad spirits, how are these spirits contained in the museum and not wandering outside into the neighboring houses?
That's a good question. Those are good questions. there's a few ways to answer it, actually, because there's multiple ways in which a spirit is contained. Now, ultimately, the primary way a spirit is contained is through the human mind and the power of the human mind. So what occultism teaches is not like all these like fancy little rituals to conjure things and do all sorts of stuff. It's about controlling the mind. That's what occultism really teaches people, all right? How to control the mind. And because control of the mind is control of the incorporeal, and all these spirits are incorporeal forces that are interacting with your mind. So the containment is only as good as the mind of the person who contains it. So they're not necessarily contained if the person doesn't know what they're doing. Now, because they're incorporeal archetypal patterns are used to contain them, which is where you get sigils and wards and all these other things. Even crucifixes and holy water are archetypal symbols to contain these vibrationally opposed forces. Yes, salt, black salt, all that stuff. Okay, incense even. They are vibrational. So what happens is by using the power of one's mind and being able to activate and harness the particular frequency that is able to control or contain a lower frequency, it creates a barrier, a boundary. And that's what, ritual does, which is why the blessings of the church, through the grace of God, create these boundaries, okay? These vibrational boundaries that these things can't cross because they're too energetically dissimilar. But if a person doesn't really have a relationship with God, doesn't know what they're doing, then they can't create the right energy frequency to be able to contain it, and they're not contained. Now, as far as the Haunted Museum goes, I know that there are certain wards that Zach has applied or had people apply actually for certain things. I think the Dybbuk has one such ward on it. A few other things that he's got there. So who knows the extent of it? I don't. I'm not privy to all that information. But I can say that more often than not, the thing that's containing all that darkness there is just the fact that that's a giant vacuum, this giant vat, a cesspool of dark energy, so it just stays there.
It's like a swirling black hole.
It is.
It just
stays there. It's like a gravity
well.
well.
All the fear that comes in with people that visit.
Yeah, and sometimes that fear will leave with people. In fact, I will tell you right now, Jamie can testify to this. We have never visited the museum where people in our group, once they found out who I was, did not ask for a blessing when they left because they felt that they needed it. It happened every single time we've been. Every single time.
That's why I walk in with holy water in my pocket.
Yeah, because we know it's going to happen. As soon as they find out, they're like, oh my God, that's the bishop from the show. They're like, oh, we need a blessing. Okay, so, and so, yeah, some of that energy does come with people, to stay with people. But typically it is like a black hole. It's a gravity well. It doesn't get stuck there because it's so energetically dense that it would be too difficult for it to try to relate. We'd have to find an equally dark person to attach itself to, which can absolutely happen. So a person that is dabbling in dark things or is perhaps overcome with grief or depression or some other dark energy should not go to the museum, because you become a gravity well where some of that stuff can get stuck to you and leave with you. So it's not perfectly contained. It never
is. If you're
is.
emotionally compromised, it's not a good idea to go to any of these museums or haunted places, even to investigate, because you're very vulnerable to what could be in there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, no, I mean, this is just stuff that I think, there's no fail-safe to this stuff, which is why I say the tools of the church are superior to anything else that's out there. And it's not because I have a strong Christian bias. It's because the energetic frequencies of the grace of God is insurmountable to some of these dark forces. They can't penetrate it. So once a person has developed a relationship to those graces through a relationship to Christ, they become impervious to these things. The only reason why people develop these bad attachments is because they just don't care. They don't cultivate that relationship with God, and it just, you come into the wrong, come into contact with the wrong thing, you're going to come home with something, which is just not the right thing to do. So no, I would say that if you're depressed, if you're suffering from any kind of mental instability, emotional instability, you need to stay away from paranormal things entirely. Just don't get involved in it, because it's just going to, you're playing Russian roulette. Eventually you're going to pull the trigger and the bullet's going to be in there and you're going to get shot. Don't mess with it. Get yourself strong. If you really are interested in getting involved in things like paranormal investigation or whatever it is that floats your boat, get yourself strong first and be able to prove that you are by not being compromised. And again, gets back to that personal responsibility thing. Only you can decide when that time is. You need to be honest with yourself. You can't fool yourself. People don't know how to be honest with themselves today. That's really important in this kind of work.
It's the same thing messing with the Ouija board or my witchy friends doing the rituals. If you're not emotionally stable, don't be doing your rituals. Mm-hmm. Wait until you're stronger or you have a better grasp on your emotions, because you don't know what you could bring in.
Even the Bible has this. In the Christian system, we have a framework for this. Paul makes it very clear that those who partake of the Eucharist unworthily eat and drink their own condemnation. Okay, so the reality here is that you have to always keep in mind that God only operates on the basis of that higher energy. But even in that higher energy, you still have to know what you're doing. You still have to work within the framework, the foundational framework of the system in which you're, and you have to be prepared for that framework. You have to know how to work within that framework. And that comes with spiritual maturity. Calling in from the 931 area code in Tennessee. Hello, you are on the air.
Hey, this is April.
Okay, hang on a second here. Okay, go ahead, April.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can.
Awesome.
Hey, since you're talking about the paranormal, I had a question.
Sure.
And the question is, I have a person who reached out to me, and they're having something happening at their house recently, and we've been out before to investigate the house. And this time, she called me on Friday and said that she had her grandson. She raising her grandson and all this stuff. There's a long history of things going on that has happened in the house with the family and stuff. But on this particular day, her grandson had asked if he could go watch TV, and she said, yeah. Well, then in like 20 minutes, he called for her to come in there, and he had noticed a string had been run upstairs around like the spindles and things, or the things on the stair railing, and like wrapped around multiple times and across the top and back down and all this stuff. And she said, it was a piece of some thread that had been hidden in the back of her drawer that the kids didn't even know about. So my question, I guess, is she's thinking it's paranormal because she says there's no way these kids could have done that, or this kid could have done that in that time. And then when she had to cut it loose because it had been wrapped so many times. Mm-hmm. And she was talking about how it just kept spinning and spinning and spinning, like unraveling. And I had her send me a picture of it. And it's just regular thread like you would sew with. So my question is, I'm not sure what I don't know how that could have happened. Or like if it's paranormal, what could have done that, and how could it have, in that length of time, how could it have done that, or, maintain cohesion long enough to cause that?
Well, hauntings, ghosts can do that. Okay, I'm not going to say this is a ghost. I don't have enough information to be able to make that kind of determination or assessment like that. But I will say that they can do remarkable things. I've never shared. I should have shared it on this show today. I could maybe see if I can try to dig it out. I don't think I can do it so quickly though on the air. I would have to have prepared for it beforehand. But I captured something years ago at my previous house that is really one of the most remarkable paranormal things I've ever seen. I've talked about it recently, in fact, where I had this. It was a stocking holder for Christmas.
That was,
and you remember
we
this.
spent hours trying to debunk that.
Well, there was no way to,
No,
because
there wasn't.
The what you see on the camera, and it's not entirely clear until you see the other side after the fact, because this was caught on security footage. I have a security camera, or had in that room a security camera that got a hit on movement, and I was still awake. I was downstairs in my office at the time, and this was upstairs in the living room during the Christmas season, where there was a stocking holder on the mantle of the fireplace, and the camera was to the side, to the corner right behind it, and I heard a big bang. Like I noticed that the camera went off, but I didn't think anything of it. I thought, well, maybe Tracy had gotten up to get a drink of water or something. She would have had to walk in front of that camera, so it wasn't a big deal. So I didn't even bother to look at the camera until I heard a big bang, and I'm like, oh, does that sound like someone was breaking into the house? Honestly, so I grabbed my gun and I came running up the stairs, and I found the stocking holder on the ground. Now these are heavy. Okay, these are. Yeah. I would say maybe about 3 or 4, maybe 5 pounds.
Heavy enough to hold a stocking with stuff in it.
Exactly. So they were weights. They were weighted, solid metal. And it was on the ground. And I'm like, okay, I guess it fell. I don't know how it could fall, because, it's not like something could, vibration could rock this thing. It was too heavy for that. So I went this time, because I noticed it's like, well, the camera went off, and then I heard that noise. I need to go back and check the security footage. So I went back and looked at it. And sure enough, it captured the most remarkable thing I think I've ever seen. I've shared it with my students before. I don't remember which lesson it is. It's in the archive. If someone can dig it out, maybe tell me which class it is so I can make a notation. But what you see is the stocking holder rocking back and forth like this. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so it looks like it's teeter-tottering on the edge of the mantle, which is what you see in this. And then it just keeps doing this for several minutes, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then all of a sudden, it stops. And then it goes like this. And then it goes outside of the camera's view, and then you hear bang. And that was the bang I heard. And this is the thing that a person could look at this and say, well, I guess it was just, it had moved, and it was just kind of like teeter-tottering on the edge, and then it fell over. But that's not what you see in the camera. But what really blew my mind is, and this is why I say it's the most amazing amazing capture I've ever had, is that when you see it from the other side, when you go and you, because when we woke up the next morning, we were trying to figure it out. And so what I did is I turned on the security camera, and I had Tracy move the object to where it was in the security footage at the time that it was moving on its own. And it was 6 inches in midair. It was 6 inches off the mantle. That moving back and forth, it was doing that in midair. It doesn't look like it from the angle that you see it on the camera, but once you realize where it is, the only way the camera could have captured it if it was beyond the mantle. So when you see it go like this and it moves back out of view, it's actually moving back to the mantle and then gets pulled off of it. There is no way that anything, but I caught this, and there was no one there messing with it, okay? This was an invisible thing, and we eventually determined that it was a spirit of some young child that probably died on the highway that was adjacent to that house. We had a lot of travelers coming through, and the mass attracts them. We were having mass at our house, on a regular basis there, all through this time. And, we were in the climax of a lot of our, local investigations. We had a lot of open cases going. So there's a lot of things that could have come back. And I always invite the spirits to come back with me so that they can attend the Mass, and then we can help them to move on, because that's how we do it. Okay, that's my method, which is very successful, by the way. That's how I help to move them on, is I invite them back home, and then they hang out for a little while, and then I tell them, okay, it's time for Mass. Let's go. And they usually find it, on their own. They don't need me, because the Mass is like a shining beacon to them, and they find peace, and then it dissipates and it stops. So we had a lot of paranormal activity at that house, but it would always just come and go, and it was always in relation to either a death on the highway, a case that we were working, or something else. But I invite them back because I take them to Mass with me. And the best approach is to give them a means to move on, show them it's safe to do so. But they can do that. Yes, a very strong, cohesive spirit can do remarkable things and affect the physical world in all of the ways that a horror movie would suggest.
I would say it's pretty. I mean, she's saying this was a string or thread in the back of a drawer. How did it get out of the drawer and then wrapped around the spindles of the stairwell? And when could that have happened? That's interesting information. I don't know.
It is. And so
set up some cameras.
Yeah, set up some cameras and see if you can capture it like I did. I just happen to have cameras all over my house for security purposes. So we have cameras all over, inside and out. And so sometimes, when we're lucky, we can capture things. Now, because we've been in this sort of limbo with the retreat house and everything else, we haven't been doing a whole lot of work with a lot of investigation. We really haven't been terribly active. We don't. A lot of the cases that we've been working have been able to be resolved remotely, and because we haven't had a place really to bring clients to do more, we haven't been taking cases where that's necessary. We've tried to refer out if we can, or give them other means to work. So this location hasn't been terribly active. There have been occasional ones.
Little stuff happened though.
We've had stuff, but it's nowhere near like the other one. And there are security cameras all over this house too, and we've not caught anything even remotely like that. We did catch something that was like a fairy outside once, though. That was remember that? That was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
that was kind of
interesting. Pretty compelling.
Yeah. That was compelling. That didn't look like that was no insect. I've never seen anything like that.
No.
But that's about it. So yeah, to answer your question, April, I would suggest that it's a run-of-the-mill ghost, a very cohesive one. And so all of the protocols in this particular case, assuming it can be confirmed, would be the normal process of moving them on. That's the best thing that one can do. And that's assuming it's paranormal at all. That's assuming the kids aren't doing crazy stuff and finding a way to do it. I mean, look, I know my parents thought that I couldn't do stuff that I did do. It's like, I was a very mischievous child. I did crazy stuff, horrible stuff. And I don't think they would have ever thought that I was involved in half of the stuff that I was involved in. But
he was a brat.
Yeah.
I think I've said that before. He's told me stories. He was a brat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not terribly proud of it, but that's. So kids, God, I take that with a grain of salt when they're like, kids can't do it. They probably could find a way. But assuming it is paranormal, yes, ghosts can do that, and depending upon how much energy they have to work with, they can do remarkable things. I've seen it. I've got proof of it. And if someone can help me remember, maybe on the August episode of Vestiges, I can figure out how to play that video for you. I've never done a remote video with this streaming service, so I'd have to play with it a little bit to see how it works, but I'm sure I can figure it out. Put it on the network
and just
yeah, but I want to kind of like go through it with people in real time so that I can explain, because again, skeptics are going to look at the movement and just say, well, it just got vibrated to the end and it's just sort of like balancing back and forth on the edge. It is not. You have to see the footage that we did with Tracy. It's in midair. When it's doing that rocking back and forth, it is in midair. I can't stress that enough. And there is no possible way that that could happen outside of paranormal phenomena. I mean, I even sent it to Zach, and he was, I mean, all the things that Zach has said, or seen rather, he said, yeah, that's crazy. You know, I mean, he found that to be crazy. So yeah, it's a pretty, I got to show it to you, but the string thing, oh, I absolutely believe it. I absolutely believe that could be a ghost.
Well, and this lady's she's contacted me before, and she's had all kinds of interesting things happen, from finding like a gun laid out on a towel in the middle of her bedroom floor to having like phantom blood on the carpet and just all kinds of stuff. So,
is this a family? Is this like legacy land that she's on? Has it been passed down through the family?
It is. It was
okay.
It was her dad's land, but first, and then she told me that there was a tale that he had silver-plated bullets or dipped bullets that he kept in every room of the house, and because he saw something that looked like, I'm assuming, a werewolf. He never said what it was, but he just to kind of protect against that. And she's talking about seeing UFOs and all kinds of stuff at this place.
Where is this at in Tennessee, without giving it too much? What area?
Well, it's near Oak Ridge, if that tells you anything.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Have you heard about Oak Ridge?
Is that anywhere near where the Bell place is?
No, Oak Ridge is actually a nuclear plant, and it has one of those particle accelerators where they're trying to open up the portal and stuff.
Oh, Lord, no, I did not know about this, but guess who's going to be Googling that crap later today?
Yeah, it's pretty creepy. There's a whole lot of controversy about it and all kinds of, like, tales about things that happen in and near Oak Ridge. So she lives right up there in the middle of all of it.
Anywhere near the Mammoth Caves?
No, that's in Kentucky, so
it
it's probably about 2 or 3 hours away.
Okay, I thought there was some of it in Tennessee as well.
Yeah.
So, okay.
There could be. I just don't know that answer.
That's pretty, yeah, come home and find a gun laying in the middle of the floor.
I mean, they do that, though. That, you know, spirits that have a lot of cohesion are going to go out of your way to do things to be noticed.
Yeah, someone's trying to get your attention or her attention.
Yeah, it's an attention-seeking factor, you know, because obviously, you know, most people are going through life completely blind. They're not paying attention to any of these things. So they have to go out of their way. And if they have enough energy to work with, then they can do remarkable things for an extended period of time. Like I said, that rocking back and forth on my mantle or out 6 inches off the mantle, that whole sequence took place over the course of several minutes. You know, I mean, you know, you look at these paranormal shows, you know, and you go on these paranormal investigations and everyone freaks out if a book falls off the shelf on its own, or, you know, you just see, you know, you might see something move or be thrown. But this is movement in midair for several minutes.
Yeah, if it hovered in midair, yeah.
I mean, that's quite remarkable. That's a remarkable capture. I will definitely do my best to remember. I don't think I can get that stuff collected today, but I have to remember to do it and get it prepared for the next show. Somebody help me remember to do that, and I'll share it on the next episode of Vestiges, which Open Lines, Open Topics is a good time to talk about it. But yeah, April, I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you, guys.
Good luck with that client.
I'll keep watching the show. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you so much for calling in. Yeah, I would say it's definitely within the realm of possibility. You can't say with certainty that anything like that is actually paranormal.
Well, it sounds like it's someone from the family trying to reach out and get attention.
Probably. That's what it sounds like to me. All right, what's our next question, Brandon?
So next question is a Facebook question from Timothy. Mm-hmm. He asks, have you ever had a demon attached to you during an exorcism?
No, that doesn't really happen. I mean, there will sometimes be the residual energy of a demonic event that you have to contend with. It's kind of draining. It makes you tired. It can make you irritable. There can sometimes be you could start to get empathically this sense of hopelessness And those are the kinds of things that you have to kind of guard against and be prepared for when you do this work. But if you're doing the rest of your job as a Catholic priest, then no, these things should not be attaching to an exorcist. And
They can cause vexation, I know.
vexation does happen, and for those that
That's
might not
happened to
know,
me reading.
Me too.
Reading the blessings, where your vision gets blurred and you
Yep.
can't really read what's in front of you.
or the energy gets in your head and you start to stumble over your words.
You
or
stumble over your
make
words, or you
mistakes.
can't concentrate, or the words will blur on the page. I've had that happen a few
Right.
times.
But that doesn't stay with you. It's like
No,
after the
no,
ritual it's
yeah.
gone. It's done.
It's almost like a little attack, but it's not an
yeah,
attachment.
it's an attack. It is, because you're dealing with the energy in that moment. But no, it doesn't come home, and demons don't typically jump from person to person. That's just movie stuff. It's not that it can't happen. It's that it just typically doesn't. And it would be, look, spiritual things, incorporeal things always go the path of least resistance. It takes a great deal of energy to be able to jump like that, and there's not any value in doing it, if you're talking like during an exorcism, they're already being weakened during an exorcism. They're not going to have the energy to be jumping or attaching to you. They're being slowly disassembled. That's what exorcism actually does. It's not casting out, it's disassembling. It's literally disassembling piece by piece that negative energy system, and to the point that it loses cohesion, and then it just dissipates. They come up with all sorts of clever metaphors like, oh, let's send that demon back to hell, but that's not what you're really doing. Is you're just disassembling it, so you basically break it down through a process of spiritual dilution to the point that it loses cohesion, then it becomes nothing. That's all it is. Okay, what's our next one?
So our next one comes from Holly. Actually, it could be a follow-up question to that.
Okay.
Has the bishop ever had an exorcism fail?
Only if the person doesn't listen to the aftercare instructions. So I've never had an exorcism fail in the moment, but remember, there's two stages to exorcism, okay? There's the preliminary stage of bringing the person back to coherence, because typically when they're in a possessed state, they have no longer any awareness of what's going on around them. And so exorcism brings them back somewhat to a state of comprehension, cognition. But in order for you the next stage is eradication. That's like where the person has experience release from the demonic affliction. That requires the effort of the individual, not the exorcist. And so the exorcist can bring them back from a possessed state, but only the grace that is cultivated in the person can actually remove the demon. And that comes through the relationship of the individual with Christ. The exorcist becomes a facilitator only. And the rest of it is basically done through the relationship, okay? So in cases where people listen to that, the aftercare, they take it seriously, 100% success rate. In cases where people want me to be Gandalf and come in with the magic wand and do all the work for them, 50-50. Maybe not even that good. I'm not sure. I've never really counted or taken a ratio sample of which ones are successful. Occasionally, we've been successful with people that are apathetic, but most of the time they find, or they will have some level of reoccurrence. Probably not as bad as it was, but it can continue to linger until they actually start to take their spirituality seriously, which we find in our work that most people don't. So, when they're being afflicted, what they want instant cure, they want instant gratification, and then as soon as they get that first feeling that, oh God, the exorcism worked, then they go back to their old ways and the problems continue to reoccur, and then they're like, oh, what you did didn't work. It's like, no, tell me what you did after I left. And then, after some digging and prying, you find that they didn't do anything that you told them to do.
You're given medicine and you didn't take it.
I mean, we had the mission church for the singular purpose, okay? Right. Back all those years ago, we had it for the singular purpose that once a person became liberated from a demonic entity, that this could be a place where they could come to get themselves spiritually strong again by receiving the sacraments. We never had anyone return. Never. Once they got their exorcism, they never came back for the aftercare. Some of those people went on and the exorcism was enough, so that's good. It worked. But a lot of them, would call us and be like, it didn't work. It's like, of course, where were you? I haven't seen you at Mass for the last 2 months. No wonder it didn't work.
Yeah, our part worked. Your part didn't happen.
Yeah, your part didn't happen. It's true. So, again, exorcism is only partially the exorcist's job. It's just to help cultivate the relationship, to give you the grace to do it, and then you do the work, And you've probably seen some of that if you watch Ghost Adventures and you see me do some of the minor exorcisms that we performed. You can hear me telling them, look, I need you fighting from the inside. I'm going to fight from the outside. You got to fight from the inside. And we tell them that a lot. And because that's true, that has to happen. But what is the exorcism? That's me giving the grace of Christ. It's just healing. People think it's like some kind of like crazy, expelling and fighting and the warrior and all this. No, it's the laying on of hands. It's basically another level of unction is what it is.
Transfer of energy.
Yes, it's healing. It's the healing ministry. So exorcism is the most extreme form of healing. And that's all it is. That's all it's ever meant to be. But the healing, it's just like, look, let's say I was a doctor instead of a priest, and you're coming to me because you're this chain smoker, and you're like, I think I'm having problems. I've got some pain in my chest. Can you check me out? And I check you out, and I find you got cancer, and I'm like, good news is, it's like stage 2. We can treat this. And I go and I treat you and we get you into remission, and then you go back and start smoking all over again. You're like, doctor, it didn't work. It's like, no, of course it didn't work. You never quit smoking. It's like, you can't keep living your toxic lifestyle and then expect that the evil things of this world are going to stay away from you. They get attracted to your toxicity. So I can't control that. That's the part of me that's the part I have no bearing on. I can give you the grace, but if you don't choose to use it, then guess what? You're not going to be liberated, I can't guarantee liberation. Like I said, sometimes people, they get lucky and the exorcism is enough and they can go back to their apathy, and that typically, though, only happens with weaker demons. The stronger ones do require more effort on the part of the person, That's it. So hope that answers the question. What's our next one?
So I can't find any on the chats.
Marina.
Did you, Jamie?
Marina just popped in with one.
Okay.
What are the spiritual benefits of certain devotions? And she gives an example, like to the infant Jesus of Prague.
Well, Catholic devotions and like novenas and little spiritual benefits that you can derive from these kinds of practices is really about relationship building with the Church triumphant. So when you're, if you're talking about like one that's a direct devotion to a particular manifestation of Jesus in the form of like the infant Jesus of Prague, or if you're talking about even just like a novena to a particular saint, it's about cultivating a divine relationship with the Church triumphant. And by that relationship, then you gain the benefits of all their prayers. In exactly the same way that you can't sit on your ass at home and never go to church and then be like, oh, woe is me. No one cares about me. No one prays for me. Well, of course they don't pray for you. They don't even know you exist. But if you join a church and you develop a relationship with a parish and you become part of that church family, then all of a sudden you have all these people, countless people willing to pray for you. It's the same thing here. You build a relationship with the Church triumphant. The Church triumphant becomes a more monumental part of your life and can can depart, or I should say, impart a great deal of grace or extraordinary grace that you wouldn't be able to get any other way. So it's about cultivating particular graces, special graces, and usually these different devotions also have some other characteristic associated with them that is related to the general idea as to what it is. So like patron saints that are the patron saint of something that's particular about their life. Like for exorcism, obviously Saint Michael, everyone knows that one, but there's Saint Benedict, Saint Patrick, these are all patron saints of exorcists because there's a part of their life that emulates this, and then you can kind of tap into that through the devotion. So that's the benefit of it. Hopefully that's the answer there. So are we literally out of questions? Do we have to go to break and wait for more to come in here?
Those are the ones that I've seen.
Okay. And any other, Moosh, if you could go, if we've missed any, go ahead and repost them in the stream now. I can, we've got the multi-stream chat on, so I can see all of the platforms.
Don't be shy. Whatever's on your mind, put it in the chat or give us a call.
Yeah, I look for the little, I love when she puts the little arrows.
Yes,
Keep doing that. That helps. It helps for me to go through and take a look and see. She puts these little arrows, but the stream only goes back so far, so I can't.
I think we hit all of them.
We hit them all. Okay. Well, then, let's, unless, Brandon, you've got one that you have that you'd like to get through. We have about 4 minutes before break, or we can take break now and come back to it. Is it a tough, do you have a difficult question or an easy one? Do you have any easy ones?
Depends on if it's from Brandon.
Yeah, I know. He has a different variety, so you never know what you're going to get.
We can go to break. I got a couple, but we can do that.
Okay, so let's take our break a little early here, about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes early. And if you got more questions or comments or stories, go ahead and put them into the chat now or call into the show. Right, numbers on the screen.
Yeah, let us know your experiences.
Yeah, and we'll be right back after this.
Before the storm, things aren't as they were before. You best start bracing. Did you think you could keep us out? Shut the gates, forget us now. Tides are changing. Can you hear the sound? Can't stop us now. We're not back in town, know what we're doing. Things are about to change, it's evolution. Voices shake the ground, you feel it moving. We're the revolution. Can you hear the sound? Ground beneath your feet, with a whisper in the trees. Do you feel us watching? Hunger in our eyes, victories on our minds. It's our time to rise. Can you hear the sound? Can't stop us now. We're not back in town, know what we're doing. Things are about to change, it's evolution. Voices shake the ground, you feel it moving. We're the revolution. Can you hear the sound? just evolution. Voices shake the ground, you feel it moving with the revolution.
Welcome back, everyone, to the third and final hour of Vestiges After Dark, Open Lines, Open Topics. We hope that you are enjoying the show so far. And guess what? I found the video footage. I think I'll be able to actually play it for you here coming up. We'll at least give it a go. If it doesn't work, we might have to wait till next month to do it. But I'll try tonight, okay? And, of course, please keep asking your questions. I think there's one that just came in from Holly there. We'll get to that about idolatry when we come back here in just a moment. Don't go away. Okay, I see that Holly and Tiffany have some questions here, so we'll get to those here in a moment. Don't worry, this will not take too long. But I'm going to try to bring this up, and I hope that this works. I mean, this is kind of crazy, but we're going to try to make sure this works. So let me see if you should. Okay, yeah, you should see it now. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take the QR code off for a moment.
It's blocking right where
It's
you need to
blocking,
see.
and I'm also going to take the chat box off for a moment so that people can see. Actually, I'm going to have to take this off too, this block, this color block. Okay. There we go. So I have to remember to put those back on. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to play this for you. So this is, this was my living room at a previous house. Okay. And what you want to be looking at is in the right bottom hand corner of the screen. Okay. Hope this will, well, once I start this up, it should play without that little scroll at the bottom. So here we go. So this is the security footage. Let me take off that donation message too. All right. So what you're seeing here, okay. What you're seeing here is what it normally looks like. Okay, so you can see over in the right-hand corner, there's a bunch of stuff on the mantle. All right, there's actually, I got to move this over a little bit. Oh, shoot. No. I got to move this over so you can see more of the mantle. Okay, there we go. All right, so you should be able to see over here on the mantle, on the far right-hand of the screen, nothing going on. Right? This is normal. So I wanted you to see what it looks like when it's normal. All right. Let me go ahead and cancel this. And let's go and get the next one up. Where did all of my... All right, give me a second here to find it again because it canceled my list. Of course it did. Okay, here's the wide angle. Here's the magnified. All right, so this is the one with the paranormal activity. So let's go ahead and click on this one. Open new tab. All right, let's open. Not easy to do this on the air, but I want to show you guys this because it's just too good.
Oh, I think it'll be worth it for
you. All right, now, this is now, notice that there's something that's moving around. And remember, this is the middle of winter. There's some orb that's constantly moving around rapidly. But now look here in the right-hand corner of the screen. I don't know if I can't really point to it, but you can see that little thing moving, bobbing up and down. Now, what you don't realize, you can kind of tell because you can see the mantle is that white, bright white part, and you can see that there's some stuff on the mantle. This is well in front of the mantle, right? This is 6 inches in front of the mantle. You can almost tell, but you can see that thing moving up and down, okay? And there's this orb that's rapidly moving through the house. Now, remember, this is the middle of winter. We didn't have any bugs in the house.
This is January,
yeah.
So there's no bugs around.
Yeah, this is January 23rd. January 23rd. Yeah, of 2021. And yeah, we keep our Christmas decorations up late. Okay, so it's going to keep doing that for minutes. Now, what you don't realize is that little thing. Can everyone see it? That little thing. I'm sorry for those of you on the audio only. You're going to have to go to the YouTube channel and watch the replay on this. Or if you're listening live on the audio only, go over to the YouTube channel now so you can see the video here. But you can see that little thing moving up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay. So we're gonna jump ahead here to, let's see, where is it here? Let's go. Okay, it's already off there. So now watch. Keep an eye on that little thing moving up and down to the right of your screen. It's the only thing really moving other than the fan.
And just
all right, there it goes. It's being pulled up now. Well, listen. Hear that noise? Listen again. Another noise. And there it falls.
There it goes.
There it falls. You never see it fall.
And you see how it gets lifted up.
Yeah. So what I'm going to show you,
gravity.
what I'm going to show you in this next one, okay, is this is going to be a zoomed in version, which I think makes it easier if you're having a hard time kind of like seeing this.
Yeah, it can be kind of hard if you don't already know the layout of the room.
Yeah, if you don't know the house. So I'm going to give you a zoomed in version here. Okay, now again, because of there's a teapot there. That's that thing that's directly to the right of it.
Tea set,
and you can't tell, but if you notice, it's actually too big for the mantle. It's coming out. This thing is moving well beyond. It's 6 inches beyond the mantle. Okay, you can't really tell because the teapot's blocking it, but this thing is floating there in midair. All right, this is floating there in midair. And it's doing this for several minutes. Okay.
Even if by some weird thing it was just vibrational, it was just hovering. How does it get lifted back up?
And that's what we got. Yeah. So let's go to the part where it gets lifted. It's about right here. So now watch the deliberate movement of it too. It just stops and then it moves back. Look at that.
What the bleep?
Yeah. And then you'll hear two little like footsteps. Watch. Listen. There's the first one. Put your volume way up. You'll hear another one. There's the other one. And then the bang.
Wood floor. Yep.
And you can hear how heavy it is.
So it's almost like a child trying to put something back up on the mantle and they can't quite reach it because they're too small and it just falls over.
Yeah. So now the last one I'm going to play here is the other side of the view so you can see after the fact what's actually happening here. Let me see which one is. I guess it's this one, I think. So I'm not going to play the audio on this one because let me just, but I want you to kind of see. So Tracy's going to go. All right, so this is Tracy. And so she's looking at the security camera and I'm holding it so we can try to figure out where was it when it fell or when it was moving. Okay? And so right now I'm on the mantle and you can see how far in it is. Actually, I'm a little bit, now watch.
Yeah.
And so once we get to, it's way down. It was much further down. See, she's showing me because she's looking at the actual footage of when it was there, and then we're trying to find where it happened. Okay, so this next one, that was just one of us figuring it out. This next one I'm going to play.
Professional investigators. Got to try and debunk it.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, even when you know, there's
Right.
no way that anybody was messing around because you were, So I'm going to show you one more, and then we'll get back to questions. But I'm going to show you on this one, and like I said, so I can talk over it, I'm going to keep this one muted because it's not really very helpful, I don't think. So this is the mantle. You can see the security camera there on the right. And so let's see where. So what we were trying to do is we were trying to see if we could simulate it. So in order for it to be where the camera can see it beyond this teapot that you see right there to the right of to the left of the hedgehog, to the left of the camera, this is where it needs to be. So I'm holding it, and then that's where it would be moved back. So it was floating slightly in front of the mantle. Let me see if I got a better angle here. There's one more that might be slightly better than that. Why does it keep resetting all my files? Let me go here. This one, let me see. This one might be better. So this is what it looks like when it's not being disturbed. And we tried everything. I think we tried taping it up so that we could kind of see if we could, get it to stay outside of that range. There was just no way. It would have to float in midair for it to be able to do where it sits. It's out of camera view. And we were trying to see if maybe the weight of the stockings, of course, this is after Christmas, so the stockings are empty. But we were trying to see if there's anything that could pull it down. And I even tried taping it somewhat in front so that we could see if we could get it in view of the camera. You couldn't. There was just no way. It'd have to float in midair. So anyway, that is the footage. I hope that you found that to be fascinating as I find it. I mean, because that's like to date, still, in my opinion, the best capture I have ever had by far. So let me go ahead and get our screen.
April says, so it looks like there is a darker shadow in the room beyond the mantle, and the orb increases in mass or gets bigger just before it gets pulled back.
Interesting. We'll have to go and analyze that again and see.
Thank you, April.
You'll have to show me where you see that so I can look more closely at it. So where's our
it says right before it gets pulled back.
There it is.
I know a few, maybe about 30 seconds before it goes up there, it almost seems like an orb comes out of it.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that can't be a bug because there was
definitely one. No.
And I showed you the first video that was before the activity started. And you can see that there's nothing moving around, nothing flying around in that. It's only that orb is only visible during the activity. So really fascinating stuff. Let me know what you think. It was pretty crazy that night. It was pretty crazy. Okay, anyway, let's get back to our question. So I know, was it Holly that had a question, Brandon?
Holly, yeah.
Yes, can Bishop talk a little more about idolatry? I find some people are more attached to their religious trinkets than their relationship with God.
Oh my gosh, my favorite subject, idolatry, because you know what the biggest idol is? People will sometimes say it's money or power or some false god or something. The biggest idol is the Bible. People have turned that book, or should I say collection of books, into a weapon against everyone else that they don't feel is the right kind of person, whether it be the right kind of Christian or just the right kind of person, period. And they will take literal context out of all of it and miss the entire point of what it's there to do for you, turning it into truly an idol. In fact, and the reason I say it's an idol is because what they believe in is their idea of God instead of the real one. They've replaced the real God with their idea, their preferential concept. And they use the Bible to justify this preferential concept.
Cherry pick the scriptures.
Absolutely. That's why they have to. Because if you take it into context, well, then you can't do that anymore. So if you're taking it into, if you're taking it out of context, well, then you can make it believe anything you want. You can make it say anything you want. All right. And so that's the biggest idol. But of course, people turn anything into idol. Money can be an idol. Power can be an idol. Objects, like the trinkets she's talking about. Yes, absolutely. The fact of the matter is, idolatry is the believing in anything that you're putting more value in than the authentic God himself. That's an idol. So if your holy water and your little crucifixes and all this stuff are more important to you than your relationship to God, that's problematic.
Yeah, these are supposed to be a reminder of your relationship.
And that's all it is. That's all it is a reminder.
It doesn't have any power on its own.
No. Your faith is what empowers it. You could give a blessed crucifix to an atheist and have them wear it, and it will offer no protection for that person whatsoever because there's no faith there in which to activate the meaning behind it. Which is why you can have an atheist read the Bible, the same Bible that you read and find inspiration from, and they get nothing out of it. What, the Holy Spirit's not talking to them? No, that's not what it is. They don't care. They don't care to see it. And science becomes the idol in that context. Science is a definite idol today. It's definitely put politics as an idol today.
Oh God, yeah.
The politicians have become idols. Okay, so yeah, it's putting anything above God. And yes, you can put the Bible and religious things above God. You can put your own faith above God. I know many Christians that do that, and they think that they're good Christians. No, that's not a good Christian. In fact, I would say you probably should stop calling yourself one, because a real Christian, a good Christian, wouldn't do that. Wouldn't do that. Bible is not a weapon. Bible is a guide. It's an inspired guide. It's a holy guide, but it's a guide. It is not to be turned into some kind of immutable law. And God is not that, he's not judicial. All right. We don't have a judicial God. It is not, when we say that God acts as judge, we're not talking about an enforcer of laws. What we're talking about is one that the one that can see your heart and exposes you for who you are and what you are. That's the judgment. Nothing is, look, you don't get sent to hell. You send yourself there by virtue of your own apathy. It's the only way you can end up in hell, is to become apathetically, that nothing matters. Nothing matters at all. God doesn't judge you that. What God's judgment is exposing to you the truth of what you are, what you've let yourself become. That's too much for some people. But that's all it is. All right? In the end, you're your own judge, jury, and executioner. You can decide to change that now, or you can just stay apathetic and, then suffer the consequences of, let's face it, the atheists get exactly what they want. They believe that we just die and become nothing. Well, that's exactly what will happen. It takes a lot of faith to stop that from happening, because that's what death is. It's annihilation. It's the end. It's over. Okay? And that's the natural state now. You die, and that's it. You don't come back from that. It takes a super relationship to God with profound grace to change that reality. And without faith, it can't be done. Okay? Without faith, it's not possible. All right? So idolatry is just going to get in the way. It's going to fool you into thinking, giving you a false security, saying, "Oh, I'm okay. I believe." Yeah, your belief is an idolatry too. That's idolatry. Believing in Jesus is idolatry. You know what's not idolatry? Living the gospel. Because that's the only way to have an authentic relationship to God. I don't care if you believe in Jesus. I don't care if you read your Bible and you believe what it says. What I care about is, do you live it? You know why that's the only thing I care about? Because that's the only thing God cares about. If you're living it. That's the only way not to be idolatrous. Okay, so yeah, there's all sorts of idols. The only way to eliminate them is to live the gospel. I don't want to turn this into a preachy thing, but it's kind of a preachy question. So, all right, Tiffany had one too, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So our question is, what causes severe hauntings that then dissipate on their own?
That's typically, it can be a couple things off the top of my head, because there's a lot of variabilities here. But the two most primary things would be that the spirit crossed over. All right, that can sometimes happen through their own realization, or we can help, which is what we should be doing when we encounter that. Or they just start losing cohesion, and through spiritual degradation, they start breaking down, and it gets harder and harder to hold cohesion to the point that they just break down. But if you're talking about like a strong and sudden, things are going crazy and then it just stops, that's typically because the thing either dissipated itself through the expenditure of that energy, or it crossed over because it, through the interaction with that energy, it developed the realization that it needed to, in order to move on. That's the two primary things that would cause that to happen. But it typically ebbs and flows. So in an active location, what we find, until there's true intervention there to move whatever's there on, what we find is that it does do this, like this wave pattern. Mm-hmm. You'll have strong and then it just stops, strong and then it just stops, and it can sometimes like fluctuate over the course of months or years, because time's not really relevant in that incorporeal state.
It's all energy expenditure. Then you have a time where it's gathering energy, then it just blows its wad, and then nothing for a while.
Yep.
And that's where you get the roller coaster.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it happens too when you go in and disturb, like people doing renovations. They can stir up a lot of stuff, and that can cause some haunting. A lot of times it'll piddle out once you stop doing the renovations or complete it. The energy will basically fade back back away.
So that's usually what it is. I mean, there's other things that can happen. Sometimes the energy shifts, and then it's no longer conducive to whatever vibration that particular spirit's operating at. It's no longer conducive, and then that prevents the energy from manifesting. That can happen, but a few different possibilities there. Any other questions?
I'm looking, not seeing any.
Brandon, might fall to you because I'm out of videos.
All right. Well, I do have a question. It's not on YouTube, but since we're on the topic of possessions and exorcisms and paranormal, so the cliched 3 knocks or 3 scratches in Hollywood means that something is demonic or mocking the Holy Trinity. But in a previous question, you had mentioned that 3 in biblical gematria is completeness. So how accurate is Hollywood in this?
It's kind of both and neither. Like it's just like 666, right? The original number was actually 616, but because everybody remembers 666 because that's what became proliferated in all these translations of Revelation, that became the mark of the beast. And then, occultists like Aleister Crowley, further reinforced this evil presence or this evil reality through that 666 number, to the point that that's now a thing of its own. It's an archetype that's been built almost like an egregore of sorts, that's been built into the fabric of our reality through the consciousness of everyone believing it. Okay, so that's all it takes to make something real, is for it to be in enough people's heads that they believe it. And if they believe it, they make it happen. So the same thing's true here. This is what makes horror movies a little bit dangerous, not because like demons are going to come out of your television screen because you're watching a horror movie or a paranormal show, but that by believing in the concepts that are relayed archetypally through the story or the visuals that you're seeing, and it getting into enough people's consciousness, enough people seeing it, and then expanding upon it through their own imagination, makes it more real. This is how things become real. Okay, that's the process of creating, because you're made in God's image and you are a creator by nature. You just don't have any control over it. And so your mind is literally a manufacturing plant for creating universes. This is what we do when we write stories or make movies. So the danger here is that you can make things real that aren't real, because we make the decision as to what's real. Nothing else does. There is no absolute reality. Absolute reality exists. What does exist is the reality that we all agree upon to be true. And that's all done through a shared experience of incorporeal perceptions and sensations. Okay? So when you're talking about something like 333, the mimicking or the mocking of the Trinity, all it takes is for one person to say that on a platform that countless people hear and say, oh, that makes sense. And then that becomes a thing. And it gets manufactured into reality to the point that now it is real. Now it is a thing. So yes, it's not true in and of itself. It's not like, oh, the devil's like, oh, let me mock the Trinity. I'm gonna do knock 3 knocks, just to spite the Holy Trinity. It's not like that. What it is that now that there's so many people that believe this, it's now a thing that you have to look for, because now the demonic, the Yetzirah, will reflect that out into the ether, and it becomes an indicator that there's something dark going on. All right, so now it's something to contend with, just like 666 is now something to contend with, not because it's the real number. The actual number of the beast was 616, but nobody cares about that number. No one gets freaked out when they see that at the grocery store when their check comes to 666, 616. I mean, no one cares about that. What they care about is 666. So that's become the archetype that conveys and confers this darkness. And there's reality to that now. Not because it has any historical value, not because it was real in some universal existential sense.
We made it that way.
We made it real. Yeah. That's what makes the Yetzirah so dangerous, is that it's too broken, and yet we still possess the nature of God. We still possess his image, but we're broken. We're like a broken God. And so what we use the powers of the divine powers of creation, and we screw it all up. And this was what creates greater levels of evil, and yeah, these are actual spiritual forces now that have to be eradicated through grace and through the militant church, kind of like what we were talking about in the first hour. So what are your thoughts there, Brandon?
The more I learn and the more I hear you talk, the more I know how little I know.
Join the club, bro. April has a fresh question. I don't know if you're familiar with this. I am not.
Okay.
That's 2 things she's got me. I'm going to be Googling my brains out tonight.
Okay, let's hear it.
Thanks, April. You're the reason for my insomnia tonight. What are your thoughts about the conspiracy that they have found large doors and caverns built into the Grand Canyon, inside which they have found Egyptian hieroglyphs?
Yeah, I've heard of this.
Have you? Okay.
I have. I mean, I can't confirm one way or the other whether or not any of that's actually true. So I don't really have an opinion on it. I don't really get an opinion on things like this until I can find at least some data points to kind of say, okay, well, there's some credibility to that. I do take conspiracy theories of any kind with a grain of salt. I think there's always a hint of truth in all of them, but the question is how much truth and how much of that truth is actually relevant, because sometimes it's just misdirection, I think. And not that this is necessarily a true conspiracy theory, but I mean, it sounds like it could be, just a exaggerated claim. So I don't know. I've never looked into it. I've never tried to. I haven't really heard a whole lot of detail on it. So I really have no opinion, and I don't form opinions on things like that until I have more data. So it's interesting if it's true. If it is true, then what that would reflect is a lot of different possibilities. I know there are theories out there with the ancient alien theories and all that hieroglyphs were some kind of iconic type of communication, with perhaps a way to communicate with an alien species through some kind of pictorial form that both could understand. Hieroglyphs are not necessarily icons in the sense that, like the icons on your computer, they're more like a type of alphabet. So, speaking an Egyptian language, it's more like an alphabet type of thing with some kind of pictorial aspects as well, depending upon how ornate it is. But I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Egyptology. It's just a casual interest of mine. But so, it could be, I mean, pyramid shapes and structures of the ancient world are all over the world. And, there's similar things in Mexico, though they'll be quick to tell you that they're not, they're not tombs, they're temples.
Compelling pyramid type shapes in Antarctica as well now.
Yeah, and that's another conspiracy, But if you go on your your Google Earth, there are some interesting things that you can find down there. Whether or not any of it is actual, I don't know. So I don't know if I have thoughts on it. I think it's interesting, but I couldn't tell you what it is or if it means anything of it, any significance. I will say this. I do think that we were visited and have been visited by an alien intelligence. I do think that's true. I do think that is absolutely true.
Like the Anunnaki?
I mean, I think that's all part of the overall thing. I don't know to what extent, and it's only because I've had personal experience with this, which I've talked about on this show. So I've encountered this, whether or not it's some kind of interdimensional thing or some kind of literally a spacecraft from another star system. I can't tell you. I don't understand how it all plays together, but I do feel that there is something strange of that nature going on. I think that it's getting stranger as the governments of the world are starting to get a little more open about talking about, UAPs and all this stuff. So, if this is related to that, it's possible. I just don't know. We just have to wait and see more. But if I do find any information on it, I will look more closely at it and see if I can derive a more specific opinion. But I just don't know. What's our next one?
That's a homework.
Yeah.
That's the last one I see. What about you, Brandon? You see anything else?
So I got one.
All right.
Okay.
So growing up, I was taught that 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 14 is referencing fallen angels, demons. And Southern Protestants in particular use this verse to prove their claim that all ghosts are demons pretending because Satan pretends. Is this verse actually referencing fallen angels or demons, or is it referencing humans?
Well, let me bring up the verse so I can read it directly. So what verse is it again?
2 Corinthians 11:14.
11:14. All right, give me just a second to get it here. $11:14. All right, it takes a second for this to come up. Okay, no wonder for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light.
Oh yeah.
No, this is not talking about fallen angels in the specific sense. It's talking about how evil operates through deception. Okay, and to the effect that, and if you look at the context here, look at what he's talking about right before that. But what I am doing, I will also continue to do, so that I may eliminate the opportunity from those who want an opportunity to be regarded just as we are in the matter about which they are boasting. For such men are false apostles, deceitful workers, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. No wonder for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Therefore, it is not surprising if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness, whose end will be according to their deeds. So the point here is that, evil can only operate with deception. It doesn't have, again, this is a good biblical proof, and I'd say this is a far more enlightened way of using this verse than to say it's talking about demons or something, is to say that this is proof positive of what I've been saying all this time, that the devil has no power outside of that which we give him. Mm-hmm. So the only way the devil can do anything is through deception, because he has no ability to do anything. It's always through disguise. It's always through empty appearances. Okay? And our own Evil inclinations work the same way. Authenticity doesn't require any kind of validation. It's obvious. Okay? But deception is always trying to validate itself. You know, Jamie and I were talking about some people we know that have, came across initially as really, nice and interested people. And then as you get to know them, you find that they're just full of shit. Okay. They're just playing a game. They're two-faced. They're just out for their own purposes. And they're using things like kindness, and pleasantries and like smiles and waves when they see you coming to.
Well, they suck you in,
yes.
so your guard's down.
Yes.
And then they smack you upside the back of the head.
And that's what evil does, because it can't operate authentically. It has to use a contrived means in order to accomplish its end. And that's what this is saying here. So, it's not talking about the devil pretending to be something that it's not. It's talking about evil itself always creates an appearance that is empty, and it makes it look better than it is. It makes it look like something desirable when in fact it's not. We do this with ourselves. What it's really, let's take it to practical terms. This is what the Yetzirah is doing. All right. A person might be called to ministry or to serve God in some way. In fact, all Christians are called to serve God in some way, but they become instantly distracted by the pursuit of a good career or wealth or, personal interests, personal desires at the expense of what God's calling them to do.
Or they have outside influences telling them they're not good enough, or you're not the right person, or
yeah. This all
putting that doubt in you.
There's doubt. There's always a multitude of ways. This is the devil disguising himself as an angel of light, because what he's doing is creating, this is a better life. Your Yetzirah is saying, this is better than doing God's work. God's work sucks.
You're not good enough for that. Let's do this.
Yeah. Gratify yourself. This is better. This is your own inclination. And what this is talking about is that inclination disguising itself as something better than the truth. And that's all it's saying. Now, is that a fallen angel? Well, I guess that is a fallen angel, isn't it? So it's not exactly wrong. It's just not right the way that you think it's right. It's not right the way people are going to tell you it's right. People prefer a little fairy tale, a little song and dance to being reasoned with rationally. And, we wouldn't have all these atheists and all these groups, these scientists and materialists and all these people hating on Christianity so much if Christianity grew up and acted like it. But it does. No wonder they say that we believe in the sky daddy. No wonder they say that, because that's what a lot of these Christians actually do believe in. That's not the real God. That's another idol, getting back to one of those previous questions. And it's, so let's mature here. We have a language, an archetypal language, a metaphorical language, an allegorical language that's contained within Scripture. It talks about these things in these ways that make it easier to understand. But we're not supposed to take any of that literally. Literal in the sense that this is an actual thing that's happening, but not literal in the sense that this is some kind of like historical event that happens in time. And, come on, if you take the Bible that way, you're basically just reading Harry Potter. You're just reading a work of fiction. If you take the Bible that way, you're missing all the points, all the real stuff. You're just completely like skipping over it and just going right in and just creating a fiction out of it. Misses the whole point. So no, it's not. It is talking about fallen angels, but it's not talking about fallen angels the way you think it is. Let's stop playing Dungeons and Dragons with the Bible, and let's accept it for the moral authority that it is to help us mature. Unfortunately, people use it to get less mature. They start.
Well, they use it for their own devices.
Well, they turn it into an idol.
Right.
That's why I say the
Weaponize
Bible's
it
the number
to hurt
one
other
idol.
people.
The Bible's the number one idol. They weaponize it. Yeah. So there you go. We've got about maybe 5 or 6 more minutes that we could take another question.
Yeah, we got one from Jimmy.
Okay.
He asks, "Have you heard about the aliens in Vegas?"
The aliens.
The ones in the backyard. But they couldn't debunk the footage.
I did. I saw that footage. I was fascinated by
Just
it.
kind of went away, didn't it?
It did. It did kind of.
Even law enforcement officers are like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, I saw it. I saw the footage. I saw the whole thing. I can't tell you what it is. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you. I can say that it looks like it's credible. It was definitely an actual call that law enforcement responded to.
Yep.
So something seemed to be going on, and I want to say that the people have held their
They
ground.
haven't backtracked at all.
They've said that this
They're
really
sticking to
happened.
their guns. Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like I said, something's going on out there. I've had my own experiences, so it's like I'm talking from a place of experience. I'm not talking from a place of like knowledge because I don't know, but I can tell you I have witnessed things I've witnessed phenomenon that is associated with the whole UFO alien abduction conspiracy. I've had personal experiences with this that fall into that category, and I've had clients that have had experiences with this come to me for help.
Yeah.
Because they don't know who to talk to about it. So it's a thing. It's a real thing. What it is, I can't tell you. I don't know. I'll tell you what I don't think it is. I don't think it's it's demons, pretending to be aliens on spaceships. I do not think that. I know a lot of people think that.
Right.
I think there's people in Congress that think that. They said that when they were having those hearings. It was someone, I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was a senator. I don't remember for sure. But there was somebody, some politician that said that he thinks that they're demons. But I'm sure his Baptist pastor told him that. I don't subscribe to that nonsense because I know what demons really are. I work with them all the time, and they're not aliens. Okay, what I experienced those days when I had what I feel to be experiences that relate to that type of phenomenon of the alien variety was nothing like any demon I've ever encountered as my work as an exorcist. Not even close. So this is very different from that. Okay, so no, I don't think they're fallen angels. I don't think they're demons. I can't tell you what they actually are. I can tell you some of the theories that are quite disturbing. Perhaps the most disturbing theory. I'm not saying I believe this. So let me get that out there right now. But I can tell you one of the most disturbing theories I've heard is that this is all a simulation, and that they're the operators of the simulation, and that we're sort of like stuck in this this virtual reality that they manage. And of course, there's theories as to why they would do this, and none of them are good. They all fall into the category of similar to the Matrix movie, where it's like artificial intelligence enslaving the human race. Well, there are people that feel that aliens are artificial intelligence beings. Like these are manufactured, not entities that are born, but like droids, I guess, that are manufactured, and that they come into the simulation, kind of like the Matrix style. I find that to be a very disturbing worldview.
Yeah.
Because how more powerless could you possibly get than that? That's about as bad as it gets. So I don't like feeling powerless. I reject powerlessness. But I also, as a person of faith, and having had far more experiences with that than with aliens or even demons, my experiences with God supersede all of that. Now, these kinds of Matrix people would say, well, it's just the simulation making you think you're experiencing God. Mm-hmm. You're programmed by the simulation to experience that. But there's a difference for me from the events of everyday life and these experiences that I've had with God, these mystical experiences, because I think even April, I think she was the one that brought this up on the Nicolay Network a while back, where she was asking about mystical experiences and if they're like dreamlike and if they're like difficult to remember. If it's like a dream where, after you have the mystical experience, it sort of fades away. It's hard to remember. And I said, actually, it's the complete opposite of that. Any genuine mystical experience I ever had, any kind of divine experience with God I've ever had, it lingers forever. In fact, you remember it in painful detail to the point that you would almost do anything to experience it again.
I get that. My experience in the hospital, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Every bit of it. It was so real to me.
Yeah.
It was realer than you and I sitting there talking.
And that's the other part of it,
Yeah.
is just what you said, that these kinds of experiences feel real, which does, I will be fully honest. Look, when I was a child, one of the biggest struggles I had, it's probably a psychological diagnosis for this, but one of the biggest problems with the struggles I had was feeling that anything was real. I did not believe that my parents were real. I didn't believe that my life was real. I didn't believe that any of the so I really had a hard time caring about any of it for a long time, because it felt like it wasn't really happening. And the reason I can pin back to this is all those experiences I had in the woods with those celestial, luminous beings that I encountered that
I
I've
think
talked
after
about.
you told us the story, we all agreed that they were probably angelic.
Probably angelic. But the reason that I had such a hard time was because that felt, for the first time in my life, to be, this is what real is. Yeah. This is not real. And I still, even to this day, I still struggle with that feeling, because those spiritual experiences I had, those divine ones, the ones that were direct encounters with God, feel so much more real than anything I could ever experience out here. And it's kind of hard to shift back and forth. So I don't think that's the simulation. If it is a simulation at all, I think there's something that is far outside of it. Maybe the Gnostics are right. Maybe, we need to escape the prison. And the Matrix is basically a modern day telling of Gnosticism. All right. So that's the end of the show, folks. Thank you for all your questions and comments and contributions. We really appreciate that. We'll be back on Tuesday, August 20th for the next summer special. Also open lines, open topics, where you can come in and talk about whatever you want and call the show. And we'd love to hear from you. Thank you all my moderators. Jamie, thank you. Brandon, thank you for being
everybody.
with us tonight. And I will see you out there in the ether. God bless everyone.
See you next month.